Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August 2020 edition of The Big Review. My name is Eric Young. I'm the CEO and Creative Director of EYStudios. The Big Review is all about reviewing websites, pointing out tips for branding, merchandising, and usability. We have 3 awesome sites to review with you today. We appreciate the store owners volunteering their store for a review. We'll get to that here in just a minute. Evan Perkins is joining me from Big Commerce, the illustrious guy over there. He knows a lot about e-commerce in general. Always a great pleasure to have him on the show. You know, we're thinking a lot about holiday preparedness, getting your sites ready for that. 2020 holidays are expected to be off the charts. A lot of interest in that. And, Evan and I were talking earlier about making sure that your site can carry the load, of all the customers coming to your site. And, of course, making sure that your marketing promotions are up to snuff, and making sure that your store itself is where it needs to be. So hopefully you'll get some good inspiration out of the stores that we're reviewing today. Evan's here, and let's get right into it.
I think we'll go through some helpful ideas today, a lot of navigation stuff. We've hit the theme a lot that as much as you can do to remove friction, make it easy for a guy like Evan to shop on your site.
That's right.
Got to work on that conversion number.
That's right. Well, let's talk about what we can expect for the webinar for people that may be new to the Big Review. And if you are, welcome. We're glad you're here today. If you're coming back, we're glad you're back. So as far as what to expect, remember, these are not meant to be full reviews. We're going to be looking at several sites, and just for the sake of time, we'll point out as much as we can within the time allotted. And remember, if we don't get to your site today, we're also going to reach out to you to offer you a one-on-one site review. We've been doing plenty of those lately. Some people don't like to put their sites front and center for everybody to see, and we understand that. We appreciate everybody that did volunteer for their sites to be reviewed in a live format. But if that's not for you, or if you do get your site reviewed and you want some further time with us, just let us know, and we'll schedule that one-on-one review. We're happy to do that. And if there are any questions, we'll leave some time at the very end for that. Otherwise, we'll keep plugging along with the site reviews. So with that, I'd like to bring up our first site. It's Excel Radio Control. Evan, you had a chance to look at this site too, right?
Oh, I have, yeah. This was obviously fun products. I think, initially you look at a few $100 for an RC car seems tough to me, not being an enthusiast, but then I think, well, I probably purchased at least a dozen $30 RC cars that were immediately driven into a gutter, or the plastic axles break within the first week. So I should have just popped for one of these guys.
Well, I tell you, the collectible community right now, we do a lot of collectible websites, Evan, and a lot of the expensive collectibles, like you pointed out here. And it's blowing up right now. I mean, one of the things we're seeing is folks that are stuck at home, they're really investing in things that are fun. The enthusiasts, they don't just stop, right? I mean, one person's definition of an essential purchase might vary from one customer to another customer. But, hobbies like this that are fun, that are exciting, there's a lot of opportunity for those types of stores. So let's go into some specifics for this site. One of the first things I'm seeing, Evan, we'll talk about the photography and all in just a second, but are the colors, right? I want to talk about the navigation here as well in a second. I think that black, the warm color here are fitting, but sometimes it can get in the way of the legibility. There's a lot to take in, particularly with the navigation. But what are your thoughts in terms of the color scheme? What's appropriate, what's not, as it relates to usability, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, dark is, to me, generally just, obviously it can be a little tougher to read. Red text, I think it's difficult to read. I think it gets a little worse on the smaller format, right? A mobile, a tablet. And not to say that it's completely a no-no, and that it might better match a brand, but I mean, I tend to agree the contrast here is maybe a little tough. The brightening things up isn't. Yeah, it might be worth considering, I guess.
Yeah, something to think about. We're working on a site right now that has red, black, and white as their color scheme. And you've got to be very judicious when you use that color scheme, because those colors obviously carry a lot of emotional punch. And so you've got to be real careful when and how much to use of those colors. And like you're saying, Evan, in terms of the way that the text presents itself, particularly when it's not super high contrast, when you've got the red on the black, that's just kind of hard for the eye to take in. When you've got white on black, that's obviously an extreme high contrast element, but the eye is typically geared to read text in the inversion of that, of black on white. And so, long story short, I think that you should still keep the color scheme, but maybe look at ways to invert that, to look at some of the text areas to read on white. If not, anywhere you do have this type of color, make sure that the text is large enough, like you're saying about mobile, to be read easily. You just don't want people to squint. That can get in the way of a pleasant user experience. Another thing too, Evan, is we think about this carousel. There's a lot of different sized images here. I like the fact that it's showing the product, it's showcasing the product up front. But some of the text even here, we've got some of the all caps white text. It just kind of blends in a little bit too much for my taste on the background. And when you've got that much real estate to dedicate itself to the text, use it, right? And sometimes on like that thunder drift rotator, you've got it there. But we've got to be real clear on how to use the call to action buttons and really articulate what's cool about these products. I would caution against utilizing so much real estate to advertise one particular type of product. I think with so many different types of brands and categories, I use as much real estate as possible to use those bullets, if you were, to hit as wide of an audience, wide of a target as possible. And the rotator format itself, as we've talked about on multiple big reviews, is questionable. Sometimes they work, but oftentimes they don't. After the second rotation, you don't get a lot of clicks. And as a general rule, anything that's moving without, you might say, the express permission of the customer. In other words, if the customer performs a user action that creates motion, that's fine. But when you have motion happen without that type of permission, it can be distracting. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We have covered this kind of main theme in the past. I like on this site that the carousel images here have clickable elements, right? Hey, sorry about that. Can you still hear me, Eric?
There, but I think we're going well here. But we're talking about the rotator here. I hope everybody can hear us now. But keep going. You were talking about the rotator there, Evan.
Yeah, I like on this particular site that the rotator is clickable, right? So you can take action on it. I think we've seen some of these in the past where they were just photos, and it gets a little confusing at that point, I think, because you're used to being able to interact with them. But I tend to agree. A lot of people love the big carousel, but to your point, right? If I'm not causing the site to change, some people find it off-putting.
Right. Well, let's zero in on this navigation here. So we've got the top nav here, Evan, it runs from left to right. So you've got FPV, new products, et cetera. And then you've got the category and the brands. That to me is pretty confusing when you consider that you've got brands we carry as well as shot by in the top and then shot by brand on the left. What's your take on this top and left nav focus, Evan?
Yeah, I'm coming at it with, obviously an amateur viewpoint. I already said this isn't necessarily my hobby, though. Again, looking at these cars, I would like it to be. When I think about somebody who's new, like myself, or maybe a novice, yeah, I don't know that the categories or that the brands mean as much. Obviously, if I'm an enthusiast, these things all probably immediately mean something to me. It took me a few clicks to figure out, how do I filter by, drift car or military vehicle, and so in my mind, just cleaning the navigation up to make it easy. You obviously you have your brands, people who know what they're doing are going to want to go immediately there. But I think for new shoppers or people who are new to the hobby, making it a little easier to find maybe vehicles by type or just some other some other facet with which I can start to explore these things. Because to your point, I think it's just, there's a lot of different paths right now, and it can be a little bit overwhelming if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, that's well said. And as we scroll down the homepage here, past the rotator or scroller, you've got the top sellers here. But again, with so many brands, with so many different types of product categories, I personally would utilize this real estate to advertise those, right? So if you compare each graphic, each thumbnail to a bullet, you want to fire as many bullets to reach as many targets as possible. And if somebody's turned off by a specific, not turned off may be too strong a word, but if they're not interested in a specific featured item, then you've lost interest there. And so making sure that you've got that real estate dedicated to the widest possible audience, particularly with this many SKUs, this many brands and categories, is definitely what we would advise. So let's click into an interior page. Let's go to FPV and racing here. All right. So we have even more navigation options here. And we see this a good bit on some sites, Evan, where once you navigate into the interior page, you've got categories appearing right there at the top where it's got crossfire, whoop, etc. Then you've got them listed there again in the left nav. I'm not sure if everybody's heard us before we had the audio issue, but we were talking about when you've got so many types of navigation, when you've got all of this text, the color plays a very big role in making sure the legibility comes across. So here, I think it's really working against them with the size of the text and the way that the color is presented. But the navigation layout in general, I think, is confusing. Putting color aside, I think it's a lot for the user to take in, when really this should be an effortless type of experience, right? For them just to zero in and filter based on their response. They shouldn't have to think too much. And unfortunately, I think they're having to squint and think a lot on a page like this. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. The busy category structure combined with, this high contrast, I think just makes it a little tough. So cleaning this up, maybe taking advantage of, a mega menu type of navigation.
Yes.
Could really be a nice way to consolidate.
Yeah, I think a mega menu would be great, because think about the visual aspect, the cool, fun aspect of these products, and putting some of those visual cues in that menu would be great. As we mouse over that menu there, you're just seeing just those text links right there. And I think you're missing out on an opportunity to, like I said, put some of that visual cue, some of that panache into the user experience. I think that would add a lot. Anything else on the section page before we move on, Evan?
Yeah, just to echo that also going back to, right, think about both sets of buyers. You've got folks who know what they're looking for. These brands, these things mean something. The mega menu, the images, the visual cues are going to help that other buyer like myself who's exploring this for the first time.
You bring up a really good point, Evan, and oftentimes when I talk to merchants and we look at the two different types, like you're saying, I call them browsers and hunters. The browsers that are looking for a general type of product, and then the hunters that are looking for a very specific item. Those are the ones that are typically used to the industry. They're not novices, to your point. But oftentimes, not saying it relates to this store in particular, when I talk to the business owner, they say, well, we're dealing with a lot of hunters. We're dealing with a lot of people that are looking very specifically at what they want. And that's not surprising to me. But even if you've got a good chunk, a good percentage of your customer base that's in the minority, but there's still the browsers, you have to optimize a site for both audiences, right? And they shop very differently. The hunters are typically going to the search bar or right to the navigation. They don't really put so much stock into aesthetics and particularly merchandising, but the browsers do, right? The browsers need the hand holding. They need to figure out what's what. You don't want a fun site like this to be overwhelming. You want it to feel intuitive for first-time buyers. And so it's a challenge, right, with the site design, but I think it's critical to optimize for both types of customers. So I'm glad you brought that up, Evan.
Yeah, I like the hunters browsers.
Right. Well, and the thing too, Evan, as you know, I mean, even applying this to myself, is sometimes you can wear the hunter hat, and the next day you might wear the browser hat, right? Even to the same store, just depending on how
Right.
you use it, right? I do that all the time personally. So let's click into further into RC airplane. Okay. All right, so here we are at the product page, and my first thought is just, you know, we've critiqued the color, right? And so all of a sudden we've got this big white box, right? And it's good that it's making the product pop, certainly like that. But when it makes everything else push and pull, it becomes a little bit disorienting with the layout. Other thing I'd point out in regards to color is how the add to cart is working right there. You know, your eye is really drawn to like-minded objects. So when you see these like-minded colors, your eye connects the dots, so to speak, between that button, the bar, even in the logo, and anything else. And it's particularly underscored, like I was saying about the white box. Your eye's darting around the page to the big box over here, and definitely the ones to the recommended cross-sell to the left. And so I think it throws off the user flow when that happens. Evan, do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, totally. It just things. Uh, I think for me with the big white box, the text starts to bleed a little, and I don't see like natural buckets or sections.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. And the add to wish list, I think, is getting hurt by this approach as well. Um, you know, I think it just feels like it's something it's about is a heading versus something that's about to be clickable. So I just want to point that out real quick. Let's go ahead and click add to cart. And we see the pop-up. So this is and by the way, if we've not mentioned this already, this is on BigCommerce. So Evan, when you look at this pop-up with the presentation here on the right, what comes to mind when you see this as a BigCommerce store?
yeah, I mean the modal add to cart is a popular choice. I think the color scheme makes it a little tough. First of all, there's good and bad, right? There's a ton of payment options.
Yeah.
It's, uh, that's kind of nice in some ways as a consumer to have choice, but it does maybe become overwhelming at some point. You need to maybe run some analytics, and we would offer these types of things to figure out, really what are the percentages that these things are being utilized? Does it make sense to prune these down? Because you don't want to make it too busy. It can get confusing. I think the red background on the this kind of whole proceed to checkout box is, to your earlier point, you're narrowing that contrast, right? So it makes it tough, and you can kind of barely see the continue shopping or the view and edit your cart buttons. They sort of get lost in the mix here.
Yeah, I think that's good. You just, again, you don't want to make the customer think too much. Anytime they have to figure something out, that's a good sign the usability needs to be tweaked. So hopefully these are some good thoughts as we think about the Excel RC side. I think it's such a great opportunity to really zero in on this because the products are great, they're fun, they're obviously appealing to a really interesting demographic there that loves this. A lot of passion behind this product, and I think just tweaking some of the aspects that we pointed out here would really help. Again, not a full review, but hopefully these elements that we pointed out will help you down the line here. All right, so let's move on to a really interesting brand. It's called Big Daddy Biscuits. I love this. It's really cool. I think my team talked to them earlier. They gave me some notes saying that it's you see here on the store here, it's locally sourced, healthy dog treats, all natural dog soap they offer. And Evan, Big Daddy is the name of the dog. Did you know that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's a
Good
cool
one to
name.
shout at the dog park.
Yes, right. You know, today is National Dog Day, Evan. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
So I think my employees were asking if they could bring their dogs to work, and I don't think our landlord would be cool with that. I would be cool with that. I'm a big dog lover. But this is a neat brand. I love when brands get fun, right? With the name, they don't take themselves too seriously, and so I love that. It really offers up a lot of cool opportunities for merchandising, for the way that text is presented. And so that's the dog right there in the logo. That's Big Daddy. And
That's
right
Big Daddy.
now, Evan, they're on WooCommerce. I think they're looking at some different options. We've actually talked to a good number of merchants this year that are fed up with Woo. I talk a lot about customization ceiling, and Woo's customization ceiling is very, very low. Have you seen that movie Being John Malkovich, where they're walking around, the ceilings are like 6 feet tall? It's kind of like that. It's like they're walking around. I don't know if that's an old school reference. Goes over people's head, but it just made me think of that.
That's a good one. That's a
Yeah,
good
you
one.
see that movie? That's a good movie. Check that out. Most people don't even know who John Malkovich is. I know most of my employees wouldn't. But all right, so let's look at the homepage here. One thing, and we say this a lot here on the show, is that when you've got an image, you got to make it clickable. And so here we've got this super large image, and it's not clicking anywhere. And so that's hurting you. That's costing you money right now. That you've got this big image and it's not allowing you to click any further into the site. And I like the fact that they're calling out the organic, all natural dog biscuits, and this is good info. The fact that they're handmade in Atlanta. I just don't like the format, Evan. I think they're not really taking full advantage of the real estate to get the messaging out there. You've got a lot of unused negative space to the left of the dog's head. And so it's good info. And that's one thing I say a lot to merchants is we're not trying to get rid of what you've got. We see the intent behind what you've done on the store, but we might question the execution. And so you've got a lot of really good elements right there, but I would just change around the layout. Any thoughts on the top part of the homepage, Evan?
Yeah, I agree. I think you've got this great image. Love the photo of Big Daddy himself, but a lot of negative space. You could maybe just use half this image, and then the other half you can have this text, or at the very least maybe expand this kind of text box out. That's an overlay on the image. Make it clickable. It would be a great place to link to maybe some more of the about me, how is it manufactured, or even just I
think that helps.
surface up a most popular product. Do something that you can interact with.
And as we scroll down, this image here, what do you think of this image here? Like that to me doesn't really communicate much. I mean, it feels like coal to me. I mean, I know this is not like human food, but that to me is kind of a miss in terms of image. What do you think of it?
Yeah, given what's just underneath, the biscuits and treats like that. Yeah, that looks like dog biscuits, dog treats. Yeah, I agree. This is not knowing what I'm looking at. I'm wondering,
what is that?
Is it rocks? Yeah, do I barbecue with it? I don't know.
Well, it could be something amazing as far as I know.
I'm sure, yeah. Oh, totally sure it is, yeah.
I think you bring up a good point for the folks that are not familiar with the brand, familiar with the products. You're asking some questions, right? I do like the fact that you've got the visual summary there with biscuits and treats, the dog care products, the merch and gifts. I like that. I don't like that they don't have a call to action embedded within that, and I would prefer this to be further up. I think some of the explanation text, the delicious farm to table dog biscuits, that's good. But again, this is something that could be encapsulated within the real estate above that, and you're pushing down the things that allow you to actually click into the store, right? That's where we're further down the page here. We're below the scroll. And like I mentioned earlier, you can't even click on that main image. And once you get into these, there's not a call to action to really promote that. And it's further down the page of it. So as we scroll down here, we've got some more kickers. And by the way, what we call kickers is basically static graphics that kick you to an interior page of the site. A lot of people are like, what's a kicker? So that's what we mean when we say kicker graphics. But it's kind of has the same format, Evan, with the rectangular elements as what preceded it. But we start getting into a little bit of an informational vibe with some of this content. And so that throws off the vibe a little bit, little break in the flow, you might say, Evan. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Some good things to surface up. They have some different categories, obviously with home decor, the clothing, um, but it's a lot for the homepage section. And the Big Daddy clothing, that text is hard to read, just laid over the hat like that. Just makes it a little tough to make out.
Right. And as we scroll down even further, we've got shop online for Big Daddy biscuits. I mean, I don't know exactly why we're putting that messaging out there since this is a store. I don't know if it's just, we have to have text to fill this area. But that seems a little off there. By the way, I really like the social media feed. Evan, what do
Hmm.
you think about that with the images? That's really,
Yeah,
anytime you do that, it's great. What do you think?
yeah, it would be a total miss not to do it with a dog-focused brand, right? Everybody loves pets, love to see the photos. The user-generated content is huge. I love that they've pulled these in.
Right. For the footer, Evan, as we scroll all the way down, pretty big footer. I like the fact that they're getting creative with the social media icons. That's pretty cool. Again, I like any focus to inject personality is welcome, because emotion is what drives sales, and they're putting a lot of emotion into the site. Like I said, everybody loves dogs. I guess there's some people, weird people, that don't like dogs, that only love cats, but most people, I only know people that love dogs. I think it's you either love dogs and cats, or you only love dogs. Evan, what do you think? Is that the two type of people? I don't know.
It's maybe the two. There's another category of bird people, but that's a different group altogether.
Yeah, that I don't associate with people just turn into birds, but we'll see. All right, so let's click into an interior page. Let's go to biscuits and treats. By the way, that header is really tall, Evan. We should really condense that. So speaking of the header, as it relates to this main graphic, we're further down the page and you can't click on anything, right? And so all of this is this empty white space, this main header image. It's fun, it's nice. It adds some visual flair to the page, but it ain't making you money, right? And so it's pushing everything else down. So I would be judicious at how we're using that type of real estate there. Um, Evan, do you agree on that? Would you question what I'm saying there? What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's spot on. It's a little tough. There and yeah, the image is a bit oddly sized, so you wonder what you're missing or if you're missing something, if something's not rendering correctly in that white space. And then the category page itself, obviously you've got this drop down, you're on treats and biscuits, but there's no title. There doesn't appear to be an organization to the products. So I think it makes it a little tough maybe to, especially if you're the hunter type, right? You're not making it easy just to go find exactly what you need.
That's a good point. I think that at the very least, let's add a title uh, to that banner to really
Yeah.
register exactly where you're at. But the real estate usage is something I would absolutely caution the store owner to make some changes here. Again, we love the personality, love the visuals, but even with this visual, you're repeating it across. I know people can't see that here, but you're repeating this visual on other categories. And so something that looks clever, looks personable on one page can kind of wear itself out as you click further into the site. I think some filtering would be nice here. I know they don't have a ton of SKUs, Evan, but do you think a filter would be overkill or would add to the experience with this type of section
I
page?
I always like it. Obviously biased, it's a native BigCommerce feature, but I just think if nothing else, people are so used to it that when I reach a page personally, when I'm shopping and doesn't have filters, I think am I missing something? Uh, I'm just so used to seeing them. And you don't have to put it on the left and it's a bunch of boxes. If you just have a few categories, you could even just, maybe have buttons to filter things out in a more simple fashion. Just something to help people narrow down because they likely don't just want to see everything.
Right. No, good points. And Evan, let's scroll down a little bit. And one question that we get a good bit for stores where it's the store is the brand, like you have with Big Daddy Biscuits,
Mhm.
their usability challenge, their branding challenge is different than on stores where you're representing other people's brands. right? I mean, that they have a unique challenge that other stores might not have. And so one question we get is, do we show the package itself or the product itself as far as the default image? And first rule of thumb is pick one, right? When you've got the first one with the biscuits here, and then you're going directly to the product, the outside of the with the labeling, which by the way I really like. I think it's really clever and cute packaging, but I would be consistent with that so that you're not creating a disorienting experience. Also, would question the size of these thumbnails. You know, I like big thumbnails. I like the images, you know, to be up front, but I don't think we need this much. What are your thoughts on the thumbnail area, Evan?
Yeah, agree on the consistency piece. I personally like to see product packaging imagery because that's what's going to show up in the box, at least you hope. So I guess consistency with using either or, and then totally agree on the sizing. I wonder as, you know, even though that top row, there were two different products, but one being bigger, I think, well, is that like the value pack? It doesn't appear to be, it just appears to be a different flavor. Why is it different? You know, again, make it easy, right? Don't make me think, don't make me wonder.
Yep, exactly right. So let's click into a product page and we see other examples where and this is, again, it's really, even as you see here on the product page, it's so cute. I mean, it's so personable with this product. I mean, we're 2 stores in and we're seeing really personable products with the RC store, with the dog biscuit site. So I love sites that have opportunity for this type of personality. But when you're on a product page like this, Evan, it's really undercutting the effectiveness, right? I mean, we've said it before, we got to say it again. The amount of real estate and the way we're utilizing it here is really undercutting conversions. You know, this is costing you money when you've got this page layout and you don't see an add to cart button anywhere in sight.
Right.
And so I think, you know, all you're seeing here is text. And Evan, I would say this is particularly a challenge again for when stores, this is the brand, right? It's the brand store, because you don't want to send the message that this site is just strictly informational and you can buy these products on Amazon or something like that, right? And so you got to be really careful about making the store feel like a store, particularly when you're on a page like this. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. The above the, I mean, I see a lot of people when redesigning, the whole purpose is get a CTA above the fold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I haven't viewed this site on mobile. I would imagine some of the real estate issues get kind of exacerbated by the smaller screen, and they're just making it a little tougher. So totally agree. You want to make it simple. Don't make me hunt for an add to cart.
Right. Well, and you've got, you know, even in this item description, they will ship 3 weeks prior to the holiday. In that paragraph, that needs its own call out statement, you know, and not, because people can browse over that very quickly and not see a call out statement like that. So just something to think about. I would also include, if you can, some more images of the product. I mean, this is an example of where, you know, bringing in the type of packaging in addition to this kind of lifestyle shot would complement both, I think, on this layout, Evan.
Yeah, for sure. If I think about this too as a big category for gifting, right? If I'm ordering this as a gift, I'm going to want to know, you know, what does the packaging look like? Is it going to be something I want to send as a present? So yeah, it would be helpful for sure. I
Right.
didn't notice that they have reviews. I think they had some on the category page, but
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, yeah, just not for this particular set.
Right. So some things we could do here on the product page. Let's go ahead and click add to cart to check out the checkout. Let's see exactly what we're seeing here. So we've already critiqued the header, how much real estate, but one thing I would point out, and that we see this a lot on various stores, is they're including the same type of navigation on the main site as you would the checkout. Do not do that. Okay. What we would encourage is what we call an enclosed checkout model, where you're only showing links related to keeping you in the checkout funnel. Certainly you can have a link to continue shopping, to go back into the experience, but there's a lot of ways that you can leave the site. And I'm sounding like a broken record here, but the real estate, the way they're utilizing this is just hurting them here. I mean, this is a very nonsensical layout. You know, the way we've got this massive image of the cart here, the white space is not utilized. It's pushing all of that down. This is critical information. You know, this is costing you money as we speak. I mean, these are things that you gotta jump on. And I do like a prominent button, but man, that proceed to checkout button hits you over the head. You know, at least you don't have any questions about it. You know.
Yeah, you know where it is.
Right. But when you juxtapose that into massive thumbnails like you may be interested in, it just throws off the flow, Evan. You know, it's just it's not. Yeah. This is not created with best practices in mind, and that would really help you. I think that that's something to seriously take a look at. What do you think?
Completely agree. All the stuff they have is good in terms of, I like having other products I could be interested in. I get your point about containing folks within a checkout flow, but making it easy. I don't know if you scroll down a little bit, okay, so you can't add to cart directly from here, which is nice. But yeah, if they could just restructure this page and make this a lot easier, I think they'd see a big lift in conversion.
No doubt about it. I would be very surprised if not. But hopefully this gives you some feedback. By the way, we love the brand. Like we're saying, we're Big Daddy Biscuit fans. I want to get some for my dog. I love the brand. I love the personality. But I think there's a lot we could do to increase the usability. So let's go on to the next site. Really fun sites, by the way, Evan. Like I said, I'm enjoying the first two.
Yeah, it's a good mix.
Yeah, it's a really good mix. And so with the next one, let's see, let's bring this up here. Okay, is World of Chia. Did you get a chance to check this out too, Evan? What are your general thoughts on this site?
Yeah, I like just off the bat, I think they, from a branding perspective, a lot of great, bright product imagery, makes me hungry. I don't know a whole lot about chia other than sometimes you had the pet a long time ago. I think you could still buy those pets. And then I always dump this stuff in my smoothies I make at home, and I don't know why. I just heard somebody tell me you should.
Yeah. Do they come to you and say embrace the power of
so it's exciting to see an expanded world here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something.
I guess I fell for it way back when, so I like it.
You know, you mentioned something very poignant that you didn't know much about chia, right? And when you look at the messaging here, embrace the power of chia, my first question when I saw that is, well, what is that? Right now, it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's good that you have a link right up top that says Power of Chia. Let's go ahead and click on that. By the way, let's click on Power of Chia, right there. Power of Chia. So you've got this page. Scroll down a little bit. All right. So it says it's a superfood providing good source of omega-3, protein, fiber, etc. This is good info, right? And it's info that I would recommend putting it on the homepage. So just like we mentioned on the previous site, you've got really good content. It's a matter of making sure that you're presenting it in a way that the customer is palatable to the customer, makes sense to them. Because I think that anytime a customer asks a question like you just did, Evan, I'm not sure, you know, what is chia? You want to address those questions very quickly so that you're not creating any kind of confusion. Now, kind of taking that one step further, this site has the unique responsibility to educate people on chia, but also feel like a store, Evan. And oftentimes I feel like the commerce portions of the site take a back seat to the informational portion. I'm not sure if that's by design, but if the business owners want to drive conversions, my recommendation is make the site feel more e-commerce driven. And this is also on a WooCommerce platform, I believe, Evan.
Yeah, I think they are on Woo. Good call out. The play video button is prominent, but the shop now button kind of disappears in the background. So I know there's a rollover action on each of those that invert the colors, but to your point, make it super clear what the power of chia is and make it super easy to get it in my cart.
Yeah, I applaud the use of photography. I like the white space. I think it's very flattering to the product. And so I think this is really good, but we just need to be thinking about the narrative and the navigation as it relates, right? Because when you've got, one thing I'm looking at is you've got our products and then you've got shop, Evan, on the other side. Is that kind of disorienting to you as well? What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I honestly didn't notice it on the nav, but you're right. What's the difference? And
Mhm.
like you said earlier, maybe it's by design. Maybe they want to do have a lot of content-based things in the product section, but there's no reason to bifurcate that. Typically, you should be able to have really detailed product detail pages that give you a bunch of information, make it easy to buy.
So in just a second, we're going to click into an interior page, but before we do that, let's scroll down past this. All right, right there. These call out statements right here, made in USA, all natural, gluten free. Again, this is good stuff. I think it's a little bit overkill, right? When you have this many icons, I caution my designers. They do the same thing sometimes. They put a lot of icons on there, and I'm a big believer in iconography. I love the non-GMO verified call out. That's really smart, getting that up above the fold. But I would look at condensing some of these call out statements. So you still have an iconography, but maybe be a little bit judicious in what you're putting there. I also like when you see the taste the power of chia, delicious, naturally sweetened real fruit spread. This is good use of photography. I'm not the biggest fan, as anybody's listened to one of these webinars knows, of white text on a dark background. But I think here it works with the size, right? Like I was saying earlier, if you're going to do it, you need to make sure that the text is legible with a larger font size, and they're doing that here. I would utilize a call to action, right? It's a lot of real estate, and we're not really sure exactly what it's clicking through. As we scroll down further, we've got our products, Power Chia, all the stuff that you've got in the nav, but it may seem like a small thing, but put it in the same order, right? If you're given that visual extrapolation of the nav, if you're saying our products, Power of Chia, but then you switch bakery and recipes, even that subtle small differentiation can throw a customer off. I like the call out brands like the US News, Nosh, Amazon, that's good. But with the focus on so much informational elements, again, the visual story this is putting out there is basically you could buy these on Amazon, right? I mean, that's what a lot of brands are doing, a lot of informational sites. We're gonna educate you about our products, but here's a link to Amazon where you can buy it. And if you're driving products with this store, that's a no-no. So I like call out statements, but man, when you put Amazon's logo, that's something to be careful of in the context of it. What do you think?
Yeah, totally agree. And unless, I mean, if the play is just I want an informational site and I want, I'm doing FBA or something because I don't want to store a bunch of stuff in my garage or figure out fulfillment, then fine. Otherwise, no reason to invite so explicitly another channel. If I was, again, an e-commerce merchant, I definitely want to drive direct sales through my site, capture first party data, all the types of things you don't necessarily get if they go through a channel like Amazon.
Yeah. First rule is Amazon is we don't talk about Amazon on your store. You can have the Amazon channel, but just don't get a lot of play. It gets its own play.
Yeah.
All right, so let's click into interior page. Let's go to shop here, and then all right. So we've got and see here. This is a prime example of where you got to be consistent with the nav that you're establishing and what the follow-up page says, right? So if you're saying shop in the top, I would have shop listed here on the page, right? And so you've got all products, but see, that can be disorienting because you have an our products category in the top nav, Evan, right? So if somebody's not careful, they may think that they've accidentally clicked to another page that they shouldn't have. So you just want to be really clear about the nav itself and how it's being displayed on the respective landing page. But I like the way that they've got the category displayed here. I might add a little bit of pop of color on the view product that kind of blends in. When you've got out of stock here, I personally would put the inventory statement in a different way than I would the call to
Mm-hmm.
action for the page, because the view product is inviting you to click further into the product page, but it's rendered in the exact same manner as out of stock, right? And so when you're sending that message to the consumer, that can send a little bit of contradictory visual messaging, you might say, Evan.
Yeah, for sure. And out of stock is clickable and it goes into the PDP, so could be even equally. I mean, obviously you want people in some cases to be able to maybe back order or whatever, but totally agree. It'd be nicer maybe even change the thumbnail so that it's very clear what's in and what's out of stock. I think too, I like they kind of did what we talked about a slide or two ago with you've got some ability to filter down on these drop downs at the top. It is just name, price, date, popularity, right? Which can be helpful. But I think anytime you can use custom filters, custom attributes that are more unique to your brand, let's say health benefit, um, for good products for athletes versus some other category of person, right? Like could be some interesting ways to help filter down and help people find different products.
Right. No, those are good points. And the information here is good. And even though you don't have a tremendous amount of categories, you only have 6 categories listed there, including all products there. But I'm already asking questions. I don't know what a premium and standard is and how it relates to me as a consumer. And I'm not sure if I have enough interest at this point to warrant a click to research both pages to tell me that, Evan. Is that a fair critique? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Might be nice to surface that up sooner. I'm yeah, I guess I would default to, well, of course I'd want premium chia, but I don't know what that means at this
Right,
point.
right. How does it relate to price point? How it relates to the ingredients? What exactly does that mean? So just some thoughts there. I think that's, as we scroll down, I think that's, just pretty much the same format there. So let's click into a product page. You called it the PDP earlier. Some people might wonder what that means. It stands for product detail page. We can sometimes get our vernaculars out there. So just to clear that up for everybody. So I do the same thing, Evan, all the time. I use industry jargon. I just want to be clear to everybody there.
Yeah, you get lost in it a bit.
Yeah. So scroll down just a bit and we see, okay, the add to cart button, but we got to point out that choose an option button that has more contrast than the add to cart button. And it was the only button that you could see prior to scrolling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to throw it off. It feels like a clickable button right there. And so that, I don't know, that I think having the
Yeah,
options right there throws me off a little bit, Evan. Do you agree?
I agree. Right. It's not apparent this is a drop down or a pick list. Make it a really obvious pick list, or maybe consider making this like a couple of radio buttons.
Mhm. Yeah. What do you think about, with the visuals here? We got a lot of different options there showing the products front, back, side, etc. But maybe some lifestyle shots in addition. Do you think that would work at all? Maybe, how this is working on the plate. So we got a lot of images of the
Yeah, it's
product.
it's almost like you could 3D scroll around, but they just did it frame by frame.
Right.
Totally agree. Could be some of that lifestyle stuff. It's like what you're talking about with the previous site with Big Daddy. They had some good lifestyle images, but maybe not products. So just a mix is nice. Give me some ideas of what I can do with this, which they've done in other parts of the site, but at least seeing it on toast or like you know at a brunch or a house party. I don't know. Give me some ideas.
Right. Well, and again, I've complimented the store on how clean it is with the white space and all, but when you're utilizing this type of approach, you have to be very cognizant of how, color works here. This is the exact opposite of the first site we reviewed with the RC, Excel RC, with so much black. But even though we have a lot of white space here, you still have unique challenges as it relates to call to action buttons, the layout, etc. Another thing, this is a useful tip when you're designing web pages, is the concept of an implied line. Going a little bit arty-farty here, Evan, but when you look at the logo here, when you've got World of Chia right there in the top left, notice how it's roughly the same exact width as the images that follow underneath it, right? So this creates an unintentional line for your eye to follow, and you want to create a path that goes directly to the image and then the add to cart, right? And so when you're darting the eye around in unintended ways, that can throw off the usability. So something to keep in mind there. Let's go ahead, actually let's scroll down just a hair before we go into the checkout. Yeah, you got the options here, not options, the icons rather. But no, this is super important. I'm glad we didn't gloss over this just yet. Notice how when they've got the serving elements, the 178 milligrams, et cetera, what do those look exactly like, Evan?
Some kind of clickable buttons, add to cart, choose an option, look like I can interact with them.
Exactly, and like we established earlier, your eye is attracted to like-minded elements. And so when you've got a really dark add to cart button, like you said, the way we're rendering these informational elements, they look clickable, exactly like what you said, Evan. And so that can throw off the user flow and send usability messaging that you might not be intending. So something to think about there. Let's go ahead and click into add to cart. By the way, if you have any,
didn't choose an option.
Yeah, if anybody has any remaining questions before we conclude the webinar, let us know. We might have a couple minutes to address those. Otherwise, we'll keep going. So, all right, Evan, let's stop here and look at this element here. Premium chia blackberry fruit spray has been added to your cart. How effective is that? What do you think about? I see this a good bit on sites. Is that effective to register the action that's been taken? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I see this done in different ways. Again, some people do like a modal pop-up. I think if you're going to do it, make it super clear, right? Either it's a pop-up or it's something that's attached to, the top or the side of the website. It just sort of blends in a little bit here, in my opinion, and maybe I don't notice it. I just think there'd be maybe a more articulate way to present this.
Right. No, that's a good point. Evan, in lieu of going to the checkout, let's talk about what BigCommerce is doing with their holiday readiness guide. We talked about getting your sites ready for the holidays here, but what's BigCommerce going on with the holiday readiness planning guide?
Yeah, we released one of these. I think we've done this for a few years now. So we've got our 2020 guide to holiday planning, tips, tactics, expert advice for a successful holiday season. So it's a really good document. It's about 24 pages. It's not exhaustive. It's not a boring read, and they kind of break down the from August to December things you need to be thinking about. Right, August, for example, focus on customer user experience. Right, as you gear up. September's different categories, selling, shipping, fulfillment, on to December where you've got reporting and analytics. So I think it's a really, it's a helpful guide. They've got a holiday readiness checklist at the end of that, which is super useful. Like we were talking about uptime and, do you need to call somebody about a backup server? I don't know. There's a bunch of different things to think about. We've got some good call outs within the guide. And if nothing else, download it because it has I think, super helpful 2020 holiday calendar. So you've got Canadian Thanksgiving on there, you've got Singles Day, Giving Tuesday, a lot of interesting opportunities for people to do some cool marketing things for, not just Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, but some of the, again, some of the more niche holidays. So we've got all that laid out, super helpful.
I did not know that Canada had a Thanksgiving. I did not. I'm thankful for BigCommerce for educating me on this. I did not know that. 45 years old, I did not know that Canadians were even thankful for anything. But I'm glad to know that. That's good stuff. But
yeah, it's a good one.
Now, as far as this guide here, I want to remind everybody that we will send you a copy of it. Our team will get you a copy of that as well. And guys, if you'd like to get a review, if you'd like to go further than anything that was discussed today, let us know. If you'd like a private site review, we're happy to arrange that. Just shoot us an email, info@EYStudios, give us a call, and we'll be happy to set that up. I appreciate everybody's time today. I thank you for the 3 merchants that volunteered their sites. Really great brands, a lot of great opportunities. Hopefully you got some good takeaways here. If your site did not get reviewed, hopefully you got some inspiration for your site, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next big review. Thank you, Evan, for being part of this. You're awesome. Lots of really good information. Appreciate you taking time out of your day, Evan.
For sure. Thanks for having me. Really, really fun brands today. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Take care.